Isla Monroe stood outside the Dior boutique, the afternoon sun casting a warm glow over the city street. The display window showcased the latest collection, elegant dresses draped over mannequins, shimmering subtly against the soft fabric beneath. Isla's eyes lingered on a pale lavender gown, its delicate beadwork catching the light like droplets of morning dew. She smoothed her modest sweater nervously, heart pounding with a mix of excitement and hesitation. This store had always felt like a distant dream, a place for people whose lives seemed far removed from hers, yet here she was, drawn by the hope of something different, something better. Inside, Simone, the boutique manager, had her sharp gaze fixed on the entrance. Tall and impeccably styled, with polished nails and an air of unshakable authority, she prided herself on maintaining the boutique's air of exclusivity. Every customer was carefully scrutinized, no exceptions. When Isla stepped over the threshold, her second-hand coat and simple shoes stood out among the usual parade of designer labels and diamond-encrusted watches. Simone's lips curled into a thin smile, but it was one that masked derision rather than welcome. "Excuse me," Simone's voice cut through the soft classical music, drawing the attention of nearby sales associates and customers. She approached Isla with a measured, condescending tone. "I'm afraid this isn't the place for you. The way you're dressed, well, it's quite clear you don't belong here. We cater to clientele who understand luxury. Perhaps you should reconsider." Isla's breath caught, a flash of disbelief mingling with shame. The words felt like a sudden chill in the warm sunlight she had just stepped from. Her cheeks flushed, but she held her gaze steady, determined not to turn away without a fight. The conflict had already begun. Isla froze for a heartbeat, the manager's words echoing sharply in the elegant boutique. Around her, the soft murmur of chic patrons and polite sales assistants tapered into an uncomfortable silence. The delicate clink of glass displays and the gentle hum of classical music felt suddenly intrusive, harsh against the sting of humiliation twisting in her chest. She felt the eyes of the other shoppers on her, some curious, some judgmental, many indifferent. I'm just looking," Isla said quietly, her voice steadier than she felt. She hesitated, glancing down at her sweater, a comfortable but unremarkable garment that had seen better days. "I have every right to be here." Simone's expression tightened, a trace of disdain flickering behind her poised veneer. "Looking is one thing, buying, quite another. This store demands a certain standard, one you simply don't meet." She looked around, nodding slightly to the sales staff clustered nearby, as if confirming their shared agreement that Isla was an unfortunate intruder. Isla's heart pounded louder, adrenaline mingling with embarrassment. She had dreamed of this moment, visiting a place where elegance wasn't just an unattainable dream. And now, blood rushing to her face, she felt exiled by the very walls she had hoped to enter. Yet something inside her resisted the dismissal, an unyielding flicker of pride. "I'm not here to cause trouble," Isla said, swallowing the lump in her throat. "If anyone finds me out of place, it's only because of assumptions. I'm more than just my clothes." Simone's smile was icy now, hard and final. "This establishment only serves a certain clientele. I suggest you leave before this becomes uncomfortable for everyone involved." The words landed like a verdict in a courtroom, sealing Isla's fate with cold finality. Around them, the other customers shifted uncomfortably. A woman in a silk blouse clutched her purse tighter, casting furtive glances away. A young man, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, pretended to be engrossed in a handbag display, but his eyes betrayed mild curiosity. A sales associate near the register whispered to a colleague, their expressions a mix of pity and discomfort. Isla wasn't sure who to feel angriest at, the manager who had openly humiliated her, the onlookers who chose silence, or herself for wanting acceptance in a world that so clearly rejected her. The air seemed heavier, charged with unsaid words and social codes wielded like weapons. With shaking hands, Isla turned slowly and made her way toward the door. Every step felt like a little defeat, but she held her head high, unwilling to crumble completely. Once outside, the warmth of the sun kissed her flushed cheeks, a gentle reminder that the world beyond this boutique still held space for her. She took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of fresh pastries from a nearby cafe mingled with the faint murmur of distant traffic. The city didn't care about dress codes or labels. It was messy and vibrant, full of possibilities beyond the rigid lines of high fashion and social standing. Her friend Emma was waiting at a cafe across the street, seated at a small table beneath a striped awning. Emma's eyes widened as Isla approached, immediately noting the tightness around her mouth and the flush in her cheeks. "What happened?" Emma asked gently, her voice low but filled with concern. Isla sank into the chair, fingers clenching the fabric of her coat. "The manager at Dior told me I looked too poor to shop there. She literally kicked me out." Emma's brows knitted in disbelief, then anger flickered across her face. "That's outrageous. Who does she think she is? You're elegant, and you have every right to be anywhere you want." Isla shrugged, the sting still fresh. "I didn't expect to be insulted like that." I tried to explain, but she wouldn't listen. It was humiliating, and everyone just watched. Emma's expression softened, her hand resting lightly on Isla's. "People often judge by what they see, not by who you really are. But that doesn't mean it's right. Sometimes you have to remind them of that." Isla looked up, meeting Emma's determined gaze. For the first time since the incident, a fragile hope took root inside her. Maybe she didn't have to accept this treatment. Maybe things could change. As they talked, a few passers-by glanced in their direction, some offering sympathetic smiles, others absorbed in their own worlds. The scene felt emblematic of a larger truth. Many witnessed injustice but felt powerless or unwilling to intervene. "Do you think you'll go back?" Emma asked. Isla pursed her lips, considering. "I don't know. It feels like a small battle," she said, voice quiet but firm. "But maybe it's not just my fight. Maybe people need to see that judging someone by appearance is unfair." Emma nodded. "Exactly. Sometimes the smallest moments show where we really stand. You're stronger than you realize." Isla felt a warmth spread through her chest at Emma's words, a steadiness growing beneath the initial shock. The sting of exclusion remained, but it no longer defined her. She would carry the memory, yes, but also the resolve to rise above. As the afternoon shadows lengthened, Isla's thoughts turned inward. She wondered about the people who frequented the boutique, how many of them hid fears or struggles, just as she did beneath her modest clothes. Did the polished women and men really live carefree lives, or was there more complexity beneath the surface? The question lingered, reminding her that appearances were often deceptive. Judgment too quickly passed could hurt profoundly, yet empathy was scarce in places obsessed with status. As the sun dipped lower and the city lights flickered on, Isla's phone buzzed softly. She answered to hear her husband's calm voice on the other end. "I just arrived downtown. How are you?" "Better now," she replied, the strength in her tone unmistakable. "I'm driving by the Dior boutique," he said. "I'll be there soon." Isla's breath caught momentarily. There was a quiet reassurance in his words, a hint that the situation might not end here. She squeezed Emma's hand before standing. Sometimes, the right kind of support can change everything. Emma smiled, her eyes bright. "Ready for what comes next?" Isla nodded, heart pulsing with cautious hope. The moment was poised on the edge of something new, something unforeseen, as the city around them buzzed with life and possibility. Would the next day bring redemption or further challenges? The answer waited just down the street, in the same boutique where judgment had tried to define her. Have you ever found yourself underestimated because of the way you look or where you come from? Imagine what could change if someone spoke up against that judgment, or if unexpected allies stepped forward when you least expected it. Sometimes, the smallest moments create ripples that shift the whole tide. At home, Isla sat quietly in the soft light of her living room, her fingers tracing the delicate edge of a ceramic teacup. The warmth of the tea was faintly comforting, but her thoughts spun in restless circles. The morning's humiliation clung to her skin like a stubborn shadow, spiteful and unyielding. Though her outward composure remained intact, beneath the surface, a tumult of emotions raged. Doubt mingled with determination, disappointment battled hope, and questions without answers tangled in her mind. She glanced beside her at photos on the mantel, pictures of laughter shared with friends, candid moments with her husband, James. He was a man of quiet success, having built his wealth through thoughtful, understated ventures rather than flashy displays. James' choice to live modestly despite his fortunes was one she admired deeply. His absence from her side today weighed heavily, yet she knew he had his reasons. Isla's reflection in the window caught her eye, a delicate face framed by soft waves of chestnut hair, eyes that held resilience despite recent doubts. Was she truly out of place in these elite circles? Did her clothes, her background, dictate her worth? The questions gnawed at her, unsettling and unfair. Meanwhile, across town, Simone, the boutique manager, sipped her morning espresso in a pristine cafe, her fingers tapping rhythmically on the table. She recounted the previous day's encounter, a sense of triumph framing her thoughts. Maintaining exclusivity was her mission, showing vulnerability or leniency was a risk she was unwilling to take. To her, Isla's presence had been a disruption, a threat to the polished image she so carefully nurtured. Surrounded by her staff, Simone's sharp words underscored her authority. We cannot allow anyone who doesn't fit our standards to tarnish this brand. The way she dressed, clearly beneath the store's expectations, was insulting to other clients and to our reputation. Let this be a reminder, we protect what's ours, no exceptions. Her staff nodded, some exchanging uneasy glances while others nodded firmly in agreement. The boutique was a kingdom of prestige and power, and Simone's rule was absolute. Or so she believed. Back in her quiet apartment, Isla's phone buzzed. James had sent a message, driving through downtown. A sudden warmth filled her chest, his presence was a silent promise of strength. Yet, even with his support, she wrestled with a faint sense of invisibility, an aching worry that perhaps nothing would truly change. That evening, after a restless night, Isla awoke to the hum of the city and a surge of nervous energy. The events of yesterday swirled through her mind, but one thought stood out among the rest: she was not alone. Outside, a sleek Maserati cruised down the same street where the Dior boutique stood like a glittering fortress. James, behind the wheel, exuded calm confidence. Few recognized the owner of the vehicle, as James preferred to keep his wealth discreet, shunning ostentation. But today was different. Today, appearance alone wouldn't determine the outcome. Pulling up to the boutique's entrance, James stepped out, his tailored jacket brushing the sidewalk as he walked inside with measured steps. The boutique's atmosphere stiffened instantly. Staff members turned their heads abruptly as he passed, eyes wide with unspoken surprise. Simone's face paled as James approached the counter. His presence was commanding but composed, unsettling the carefully maintained dynamic. "Good morning," James began smoothly. "I believe we need to speak about a recent incident involving a customer named Isla Monroe." Simone bristled, instinctively standing tall. "I don't see how this concerns you, sir. Our policies are clear, only clients of a certain standing are welcome." James's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Isla Monroe is my wife. And to say she doesn't belong because of her appearance is not only offensive, it's unacceptable." The room held its breath, the sharp eyes of the staff flicking between the two. Customers nearby whispered quietly, sensing a shift in power. James continued, voice steady but firm. "I have just acquired this boutique." His words landed like thunder in the polished surroundings. "Starting today, we reevaluate who we serve and how we treat them. Respect and dignity are not privileges reserved for some, they are rights for all." Simone's lips pressed into a tight line, her instinct to resist warring with the sudden reality that her authority was at risk. The staff exchanged uneasy glances, some visibly shaken. Effective immediately, James declared, any employee who perpetuates discrimination will no longer be part of this establishment. The bold declaration caught the staff off guard. Some flushed with guilt, others with indignation. Simone's throat tightened as she weighed her options. Her grip on control was slipping. The boutique's mood shifted palpably. Clients who had once been indifferent now watched with keen interest. Whispers of approval and surprise bubbled beneath the surface. James glanced at the assembled staff, unwavering. Excellence is more than appearance. It is how we treat those who enter these doors. Still reeling, Simone muttered, "This is unprecedented." James's smile was faint but unwavering. Change often is. As he turned to leave, he added, "Ms. Monroe deserves better than ridicule. And so does every customer." The day stretched on with a tension that was both charged and uncertain. Staff members reevaluated their attitudes, some conversations were held in hushed tones. The boutique had changed in more ways than one. Later, back at home, Isla received a text from James, "I'm taking care of things." Relief flowed through her. The humiliation of yesterday was beginning to lose its power. Her fight against prejudice had found an unexpected champion. Still, despite the outward success, Isla grappled with a quiet, lingering doubt. Could this shift in fortune withstand the entrenched attitudes she had faced? Or was it merely the beginning of a more challenging journey? As night settled, Isla looked out over the city's lights, a growing fire of resolve burning within her. Whatever came next, she was ready to face it. Do you believe that standing up for respect and dignity, even in the face of harsh judgment, can spark lasting change? Reflect on moments when you've seen strength emerge quietly but powerfully. The morning air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of rain yet to fall, as Isla prepared for the day with a cautious optimism she hadn't felt in weeks. Quiet moments like these, before the city fully erupted into motion, allowed her mind to gather, thoughts no longer marred by yesterday's sting but instead fortified by James' unexpected intervention. Yet beneath the calm surface, tension kept coiling tightly, a coil of uncertainty, expectancy, and whispered warnings from the part of her that braced for the unexpected. As Isla stepped outside, her gaze swept the familiar cityscape, the stately buildings and the inviting bustle of pedestrians on their busy March morning. Her footsteps led her, almost unconsciously, towards the corner where the Dior boutique stood, a monument to exclusivity and yesterday's painful memories. Today, this place felt different, as if poised on the cusp of transformation. The crowds, the impeccably dressed shoppers, the gleam of polished glass, it all seemed more charged than before, charged with silent anticipation. Inside the boutique, employees gathered discreetly, the impact of James' entrance still reverberating in the air. Whispers rose and fell like a secret tide. Simone sat stiffly behind the counter, her usual ball of iron wrapped in a thin veneer of uncertainty. She cast sharp glances around the room, no longer commanding the atmosphere as before, but grappling with a loss of control palpable to everyone. Her staff exchanged furtive looks, some filled with relief, others with apprehension. The magnetic aura of power had shifted overnight. Suddenly, the boutique door swung open. The whispering stilled as all eyes turned toward Isla, who stepped inside gracefully, exuding a quiet confidence that seemed new but rooted in a deep well of resilience. Heads turned, mouths parted silently, and the buzz of whispered speculation rippled through the room. The same walls that had once rejected her now bore witness to her poised entrance. Customers paused, their expressions ranging from surprise to thoughtful consideration. Simone's lips tightened, the bitter taste of irony settling in her mouth. She rose unsteadily, a fragile attempt at authority unfolding. "Welcome back," she said, her voice a low tremor barely disguising contempt. "I trust today will be different." Isla's gaze met Simone's without anger, only a firm clarity. "It already is," she said softly. In that moment, eyes drifted toward James, who stood just behind Isla, a quiet pillar of strength. His presence was not ostentatious but resolute, a testament to the shift that had taken root here. He met Simone's glare without flinching, a small, assured nod acknowledging the unspoken message that change was irrevocable. Suddenly, among the staff, murmurs rippled from one corner. A young sales associate who had once picked at Isla's sweater looked down, cheeks flushed, as the weight of past behavior pressed heavily upon her conscience. A customer nearby whispered, "It's about time someone stood up to this kind of nonsense." Another nodded subtly, reflecting the growing undercurrent of dissatisfaction with exclusionary attitudes. Isla moved toward the display she had admired the day before, fingers lightly brushing the edge of the lavender gown, now more than just a symbol of aspiration. It was a symbol of dignity restored, of barriers breaking quietly but irrevocably. She turned to James with a small smile, gratitude shining in her eyes. Simone watched, tightening her jaw, wrestling with a tidal wave of emotions swirling inside her: loss, shame, defiance. Her carefully crafted world had cracked, revealing vulnerabilities she had long denied. Leadership, she realized, was more than enforcing appearances. It required fairness, humanity, and the strength to recognize worth beyond the surface. In this silent reckoning, something profound shifted within her. As the hours passed, the boutique's atmosphere softened. Prior clients who had once avoided interaction with Isla now offered tentative smiles and polite greetings. The staff began to engage with her differently, no longer as an outsider but as an equal participant in the luxurious environment. Confidence bloomed in Isla's chest, replacing the insecurity that had shadowed her steps. Outside, the city moved on, unknowing of the quiet revolution inside the boutique. But for those who witnessed it, the moment was unmistakable in its significance. It wasn't just about one woman or one store, it was about the courage to challenge outdated prejudices and the daily choices to embrace empathy and respect. Later, back at home, Isla and James sat together, the evening light painting the room in soft gold. "Thank you," she said simply. James shook his head with a gentle smile. "You didn't need rescuing, Isla. You needed someone to stand beside you." Their exchange hung softly in the air, a quiet reaffirmation that strength and partnership were intertwined. As she prepared for bed that night, Isla's thoughts lingered on the countless others who might still be judged unjustly, dismissed by appearance or circumstance. She wondered how many silent struggles went unseen, how many stories remained untold. Yet in the quiet of her room, she felt a resolute hope that change begins on small stages, with simple acts of courage and respect. Have you ever witnessed a moment when someone's quiet strength changed hearts and minds around them? Take a moment to think about how small acts of courage and kindness can ripple outward, transforming the spaces we live in. Perhaps, like Isla, we all carry an inner fire waiting to illuminate even the coldest rooms. The boutique's grand windows glistened under the midday sun, reflecting the life of the city bustling beyond its walls. Inside, a calm confidence had settled over Isla Monroe, a presence that demanded respect not through flamboyance, but through quiet dignity. The atmosphere had changed palpably since yesterday, no longer cloaked in exclusivity but embracing a subtle warmth, a sense of inclusiveness. The transformation was not just physical, it was a reclamation of respect and grace. Isla walked through the store with steady steps, aware of the curious eyes still watching her. Yet, no longer did she feel the sting of rejection. Instead, there was a growing sense of triumph, not simply personal, but communal. Customers who had once whispered judgments now nodded or smiled with genuine warmth. James was nearby, a reliable anchor, his presence a shield against any remnants of doubt. But it was Isla's own steadiness, the strength born of enduring an unjust dismissal and rising beyond it, that captured attention. Her posture no longer betrayed insecurity, it radiated quiet power. Simone, the once imperious manager, had been asked to step down quietly, a move accepted with a mixture of relief and regret by staff and patrons alike. The leadership changes were more than symbolic, they were tangible steps toward redefining the boutique's culture. The dismissed employees, including those who had openly judged Isla, were learning firsthand the consequences of prejudice. The shift rippled beyond the boutique walls. Stories of Isla's experience and her husband's surprising intervention spread quietly through social circles, sparking conversations about fairness and kindness in unexpected places. One afternoon, as Isla helped a young woman select an outfit, she caught sight of Simone entering the boutique, hesitation etched across her face. The former manager's eyes met Isla's with a mixture of remorse and recognition. No words were exchanged, but in that silent exchange lay an unspoken acknowledgement of change, a testament to growth and the possibility of empathy. That moment crystallized the journey from exclusion to acceptance, from shame to empowerment. Isla felt a peaceful satisfaction, not from vengeance, but from knowing that dignity had been restored. Back at home, Isla sat beside James in the quiet glow of evening. They spoke little, comfortable in the shared understanding forged through trials. Isla reflected on the journey, the hurt endured, the strength summoned, and the surprising allies found. She recognized that worth was not measured by fabric or fortune, but by character and the courage to stand tall when faced with adversity. More importantly, she understood that true respect had to be earned through empathy, humility, and openness, qualities now seated within the boutique's renewed spirit. Before turning in, Isla glanced at her phone. A gentle reminder flickered on the screen, a notification from an online community inspired by her story, sharing experiences of overcoming prejudice and the power of standing up for oneself. Her lips curved in a soft smile. Change, she'd learned, was rarely swift or simple. But it was real, and it was possible. Every person deserves dignity, regardless of how they look or where they come from, Isla murmured, the conviction firm in her voice. Her story had reached more than just a boutique or a city street, it had touched hearts and opened minds, encouraging others to confront their own biases and celebrate the richness beneath the surface. If you believe that respect and kindness should never depend on appearances or status, leave a comment. Acts of understanding and courage ripple beyond their moment, shaping a more compassionate world. Thank you for sharing this journey with Isla. If her story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more tales that celebrate resilience and heart. See you in our next story.